I'm sitting there and I'm thinking to myself, and then I realized I've been believing a lie all along. I've concluded a story in my head which is clearly false. I thought that I'm much better in the deadlift in the last portion of it. So mid-shin above, I'm excellent. On the ground, the weight's a staple, I can't get it moving. So if I can get that thing moving, I can lock anything out. And then I thought to myself, well, okay, so what's your PR from a block or a rack pull? And that's where I caught myself. My rack pull and my block pulls, regardless of the height, is basically the same, if not worse, than my pull off the ground. So what am I talking about? That is a false conclusion to draw. If you are good in mid-shin and above in a deadlift, your rack pull, your block pull should be better. You should be pulling, 10, 20, 30 kilos more, depending on how strong you are, from that elevated position. Oh, you got short arms, so that's why you can't deadlift really well off the ground. You have bad leverages, that's why you can't deadlift. Okay, tough guy, no worries. Let's see what you can do in a rack pull. Let's see what you can do in a block pull. Oh, you're even worse there. So what is the story you're going to conclude there now? What is the story you're going to believe in now? I can't believe, frankly, that I've been all along thinking to myself, man, I've got bad leverages. That's why my off-the-floor pull is really weak. When in fact, the real story is my off-the-floor deadlift is higher than my rack pull or my block pull. I've never lifted more than 250 in a rack pull. Never. And that time when I did 250, it was a very high rack pull, still below the knees. But soon after that, I hit a 250 deadlift. So my deadlift and my rack pull are basically the same. So what is the story there? I'm not better, off the ground than I am on the ground. So today I walked in and I was like, okay, let's mess around with the block pulls. I'm hitting the posterior chain heavily with these box squats. They're feeling really good. I'm hitting my glutes. I'm hitting my hamstrings. I'm hitting my lower back, a whole bunch. I thought to myself, let's follow this theme of thinking about shaving off ranges of motion, working with smaller ranges of motion, pin presses, box squats. Let's now do block pulls since I'm in that kind of frame of mind. And let's challenge this idea that I'm better on a block pull or a rack pull than I am off the floor. That is false. Today, I barely hit 230 on the block pulls. Now, granted, I will say this. I will admit that weights at home, for whatever reason, are a lot heavier. I think it's got to do with the bar that I use. Actually, both of my bars, the higher power bar is really stiff, but it's, I think, 28 mil. I think it's a 28 mil. The one that I use for these block pulls is a 32 mil. It's literally a beater bar that I've had for a very long time, and nothing can bend that thing, man. Like it's a 32 miller, right? And it's got no flex at all. So I used that thing, and it was freaking hard to get it going. Anyway, 230 almost freaking ended up with, hernias popping out of my freaking everywhere. So that is where I am. I know that I have pulled with a stiff bar at home. I've pulled 240. I've never pulled more than 240 at home. If I'm not mistaken, I don't think I've ever done that. So the bottom line is my block pull, regardless of the height, albeit it has to be below the knee, above the knees, it's freaking leg press, it doesn't even count, is less than my pull off the floor. So I do, in fact, use the leg drive, the very, very poor leg drive that I think that I have in a deadlift. I very much use it, and that's what gets me over the top when it comes to off the ground deadlifting versus blocks or racks. So what does that mean? Okay, let's extend that thinking a little bit further. If you can't do a rack pull or a block pull, let's say for, 180 for a set of 10. If you can't do that, what makes you think you'll be able to squat 180 for a set of 10? What makes you think that? Especially if you're somebody that's squatting like me, with that, lean to the torso. So if you can't deadlift that thing up for 10 reps, there's no way in hell you're going to be squatting that thing up. So it's a really good, palate cleanser of that false thinking, to think, oh yeah, no worries, I can hit 180 for a set of 5 or for a set of 10. Mate, you can't even deadlift that thing off the blocks. And why am I saying off the blocks? Well, the block pulling and the squatting is kind of similar kind of positioning, for a large part of that range of motion. So in my mind, I'm thinking to myself, if I strengthen that portion of it, then I can rely on the posterior chain to do the squatting. Or at least I can just focus on the quads if I strengthen that portion of it. And because I'm working with the lower ranges of motion, like, less bar travel, it's easier to recover, it's easier to exist than off the floor. So I am thinking about box squats, I'm thinking about block and rack pulls, and I'm kind of more reinvigorated about the whole block and rack pull because no, it's not better than my freaking other one, man. It's actually worse. So let's work on that, which is really interesting because I always thought, I don't know why I thought this, if I can get the bar moving, it's all finished. And certainly when I've watched myself deadlift over the years on these videos, it seems that as soon as I get the bar moving, I feel like I finish it easily at the top, right? I finish it easily at the top when I have that bar speed going. But I can't get that bar speed going sometimes. But how does that make sense? If I get that bar elevated to a mid-shin, 2/3 of the shin all the way up, there is no leg drive there. It's all posterior chain and I can barely get going 10% less, right? So what's really, in fact, happening with my deadlift, I think, is that where my leg drive fails is where my deadlift fails. I really, really need that speed off the floor. If I don't have it, I can't finish it. That's the conclusion I'm choosing to kind of, stick with, because clearly, if my logic is not mistaken, if you believe you're better at the top end of the deadlift, you should technically have a better rack pull and a better block pull than you do have the floor pull. That is logical, right? If you don't, you're not better at the top end. Something else is at play. So I worked here to 230 for one, and then I decided to go down to 170 and do 3 sets of 10. And that literally ended me, man. I am so freaking exhausted from those 3 sets, man. It is, I don't know, man. I'm done. I thought I was going to do some front squatting, and I did. I thought I wanted to do a little bit more kind of volume in there. I ain't doing that. Thought about doing bench press. I ain't doing that. My eyes are freaking half shut from doing this. So I am absolutely blasted from this. And makes me think now, I don't know how I'm going to go with the box squats tomorrow. But anyway, that's what I'm thinking right now. RDLs, block pulls. What else fits that picture? Rack pulls. Although, if you've got blocks, use blocks. Don't use racks. Racks is just not good for the barbell. I guess the same thing. If you can get that thing going more than your, I don't know, what am I saying here? If you can get 10 reps from a mid-shin or maybe 2/3 of the shin, if you can get 10 reps with a weight that is your 1 rep max on the back squat, if you can get it to that level, your back squat is going to be better. There's no way it can't. There's no way it can't. Right now, I did 170 for a set of 10. My max on the back squat is 212.5. That's a long way away, man. That's a long way away, right? I don't think I can get 10 reps. Why do I reckon 10 reps? I don't know. I just feel like once you can hit 10 reps, you've kind of mastered that weight. You can go much heavier. In the same token, I'm thinking to myself, like, if I can, wow, man, if I can hit 265 on a block pull like this, I don't know, man. I feel like once you introduce leg drive from the floor, your deadlift max has to be better. It has to be better. Because when you're starting that bar at the mid-shin, you're literally relying purely on the posterior chain. Purely on the posterior chain, there's no leg drive. You can't initiate any leg drive at all. So, I don't know. I just thought it was an interesting thought. I was kind of sitting there thinking about, the deadlift. That was kind of my train of thinking at the time. And I thought, man, this freaking floor thing is killing me. Why am I better? Why am I so good at the mid-shin and up? And then I thought, okay, am I really good? And that's when I caught myself. Where in fact that there's no way in hell, Well, that's a good idea. Okay, so 170 for 3 sets of 10 absolutely murdered me on these block pulls. And I have done off the floor 200 for a set of 10. How interesting is that, right? How interesting is that? Albeit that 200 for 10 was done at the gym with the bendy bar, with that, more give bar. It wasn't done on this stiff bar. Anyway, so some thoughts there. It's all kind of jumping in my head. I've kind of concluded that in my head right now that no, my deadlift struggles are not off the ground. My deadlift struggles are not, I'm not this really good mid-shin above puller. I'm not. I'm simply not, because I haven't produced a better number there than I have off the floor. I don't know what your guys' stories are, but since we're in the frame of thinking of train your weakest point, my weakest point is not the floor, man. My weakest point is like mid-shin above. So why am I not doing that? And this is where RDLs in the past have, at the start of this year, have produced such good results. Now I understand why. And I remember some of the thinking back then was, why am I doing these RDLs when this is my strong point? This is exactly what my body wants to do. No, it's not, mate. It's not. Because you can't RDL more than you can off the floor deadlift. Can you? You can't. You can't block pull more than you can off the floor. You can't. So it's not a freaking strong point. It's a freaking weak point, man. It's a weak point because you can't do more than the original. Anyway, you guys get the picture. I finally get the picture. I'm going to go back in the journal now and freaking write an essay explaining this newfound discovery. But now I'm just thinking to myself, can I coexist box squats and this thing at the same time? Hopefully I can. I'm certainly going to try. Although if every single time I do block pulls like this, if I feel like this, man, I don't know what's going on, man. I'm freaking wasted right now, man. I don't know whether you guys can see here during these front squats, man. Like I was getting proper dizzy, man. Proper dizzy. Which also makes me think some point, maybe, tonight before bed or something, I'll do some leg raises. Because I feel like everything I'm doing right now is lower back, hamstrings, glutes, lower back. And that's all well and good, but I've gotten into trouble in the past with just doing that, with the whole anterior pelvic tilt, with the whole, guts spilling forward, hernia, that hot, sharp feeling through the groin, all that. I don't want to go there again. I managed to reverse the hell out of that by just doing a shit ton of leg raises. Ended up kind of fixing myself with that. I definitely don't want to go there. So maybe for the next few nights, I'll just do some leg raises before sleep. Like, I don't know, 10 sets of 10, 10 sets of 20, something like that. Or 5 sets of 20, whatever I end up doing. I'll see how I go. Ever since I've been sick, I haven't been doing any ab work because of the whole volume thing. I'm sick. I don't want to push it. But today I feel like I've smashed myself with these block pulls, and I'll need to just balance the equation on the other side. So I'll do that. Lots of thoughts, lots of thinking. Not that I'm not frustrated, but I'll always kind of, it's half excitement, half frustration when you kind of come up with some of these thoughts where you're like, what are you talking about, man? That's the wrong conclusion, and that conclusion has guided your thinking, guided your planning, guided your projection of training for the future, because you made this conclusion. That conclusion was wrong. And because that conclusion is wrong, I went down the completely wrong path. Anyway, that's what I'm thinking today. I'm gonna really start thinking about, rack pulls, block pulls, that kind of thing, mid-shin stuff, because that's my weakness. That is not my strength. Appreciate all the guys on the screen there. Appreciate everyone else on the Patreon, Discord, Instagram, and comments. Let me know what you think. I think I'm in the right frame of mind to think that I'm weak at mid-shin, not strong. Maybe I'm missing something. Anyway, guys, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.